Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive, and welcome to our weekly Westchester update. Today is Tuesday, the last day of May 31st, and we appreciate the opportunity to be with you, give you an update on some key issues. We have with us a number of different folks who are going to be speaking in a few minutes. I will be joined, as I always am, by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins. Our Director of Economic Development, Bridget Gibbons, is with us here. Our Commissioner Sheriff, Tom Gleason. We're also joined by the Mayor of the Village of Dobbs Ferry, Vincent Rossillo, who will be presenting as our municipal partner for this period of time, and Tejas Sanchala, who heads our Human Rights Commission as we sign a new law into place. And when I do that, I'll be joined by members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators who have been critical in making this happen. So we have a lot to cover today. Let me start with COVID, as we usually do. The COVID numbers continue to show an increase when compared over the last 2 months, although in the last 2 to 3 weeks, things have flattened out quite a bit. The nature of the infection continues to grow, but the hospitalizations and the fatalities have not grown as incrementally as the number of infections. And we believe that is because we have such a high percentage of vaccination here in Westchester County. Our vaccination percentage exceeds that of all of the neighboring jurisdictions around us. But of course, now that we're into fourth shots, for some people have 3 shots, it's across the board. It's not quite what it was when you were either vaccinated or not vaccinated. There's a variety of people in a variety of different categories. We are seeing that in the most recent information, which we have as of Friday, the state tracker has been down over the weekend. We had 4,948 active cases of coronavirus. Active cases, as we define them, are people that have tested positive in the last 10 days. They haven't completed the protocol of isolation, and we also include with that anyone who has continued to be hospitalized who's been infected more than 10 days. 4,943. That number is slightly down over the last week, but if you go back over a month period of time to where we were at the end of April, 27th of April, the number of active cases was 2,958. So that's an increase of about 2,000 cases over the course of the month. Most of the increase came in the beginning of the month of May, and it has flattened out. So we'll see what the trend lines are. We know that it's warmer outside now. We're fully into spring, on the cusp of summer, and we hope that we'll have some diminution in the amount of infection. We've seen some diminution in the last week to 10 days. If you go back 2 months ago to the end of March, March 27th, we had 1,344 cases. So 1,300 up to 2,900, up to 4,900 is a clear progression. It does not compare to the peak periods that we've had in growth that go back to the original infections in 2020, nor the holiday season infections that happened both Novembers and Decembers, nor the tremendous surge of Omicron that we saw that came late December into January. So, you know, we were all trying to learn how to live with the disease that is with us, will most likely be with us for time to come. There have been no mandates put in place that are new. We still continue to have a mask mandate on the Beeline bus system, and the state still has a mandate in place for when you are in hospitals, nursing homes, or other similar type state-sponsored facilities. But outside of that, there are no mandates, no vaccination mandates at this point. But we do think that the diminution in the amount of hospitalizations is important. Most recent number was 114 hospitalizations. That's down about 20 from where we were a week ago. But it's still, you know, an increase where we were a month ago in the 70 range, 73, 71. And then 2 months ago, we were in the 30s. So we hope that that shows still, with an increase in infections, a smaller increase in hospitalization, so less degree of severity. And for fatalities, we have lost 1 person over the last 7 days. That, in and of itself, is a tragedy for the person who died and for the people that love that individual. But compared to where we were in past weeks, if we can get to 0, that's the best of all possible worlds. 1 fatality in a week is the next best possibility. If we're going to have a fatality, let's just only have 1 over that period of time. But the numbers are also tied into the fact that now that people have had 3 shots, in some cases 4 shots, many of our satellite locations that we have set up are getting very small attendance level of vaccinations. You can be vaccinated now in the medical practice, where your doctor practices, at a host of other different settings, those set up by local pharmacies. So we are nowhere near where we were a year ago or a year plus ago, when the infection began, and getting vaccinated was a function of going to the Westchester County Center as a central vaccination place. In fact, we have now ended both testing and vaccinations at the county center. We are now actively in the process with the state of restoring the county center to its prior use. It will take a while because a lot of construction work really altered the inside of the county center. So we hope to have it end of the year at the latest back to some other use, and we'll talk more about that as the season goes along. But there will be our 2 clinics in White Plains and in Yonkers that will have opportunities for both testing and vaccination. You can consult our website at westchestergov.com or call our public health department, and we'll put up numbers on the scroll so you'll be able to see those, or go to the website to get this information. And we continue to show our diligence in dealing with COVID. It is still with us, but hopefully it won't dominate our lives in every element of it. And we will react to whatever happens on the ground. If the infection numbers drop, we'll be happy with that, and we'll be able to do more. If for some reason they rise precipitously, we'll act on that, but we will communicate before we do anything of those natures. And we monitor what the state health department, with the governor, and those above us in the structure do in order to make the most intelligent possible decisions. Now, every one of these programs, we invite one of our local elected representatives to come and talk about their municipality. There are 45 different Westchester municipalities, and they're all very different, and each one is a great hometown for those people that have chosen to make it their hometown. In past weeks, we've had representatives from the city of White Plains, Mayor Roach, New Rochelle, Mayor Bramson, Mayor Patterson Howard from Mount Vernon, and then also some of the smaller communities, villages, and towns alike from Pound Ridge all the way down into Tuckahoe. Today, we are going to spotlight the village of Dobbs Ferry. And the mayor, Vincent Rossillo, is with us here today. Dobbs Ferry has a population in the vicinity of 12,000 people. It is lumped into a group of villages that are along the Hudson River. Most of them are in the town of Greenburgh, one of them just north in the town of Mount Pleasant, known as the River Towns. But for those of us who don't live in the river towns, each of them have their own personality, and they have their own positive assets. What they share in common is a terrific river that is really a source of beauty. The Riverside Park, I've been in Dobbs Ferry for the Riverside concerts in the park, and it's a wonderful place. There's some restaurants down there that you can enjoy wherever you may live in Westchester. And in some ways, that's the purpose of spotlighting all these different communities. So you realize the scope and the diversity of Westchester County. It is not the government of Westchester County. It is the community that Westchester is that really matters. So let me invite Mayor Vincent Rossillo to join us here at the podium. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for being with us.
Thank you. I'd like to thank County Executive George Latimer and Deputy County Executive Ken Jenkins for inviting me today. They are both very familiar with our village, as they have attended our Board of Trustee meetings, Chamber of Commerce meetings, as well as the opening of new businesses and our Gould Park pool. I'd also like to thank the county for their support during the pandemic. As a newly elected mayor, the weekly phone conferences were invaluable to me, as were the supplies and resources that were provided. The county has also been very helpful by providing aid to help address damage sustained due to climate change. As a result of the increasing intensity of storms, a heavy burden has been placed on our infrastructure. Like most municipalities with aging infrastructure, the burden is physical and financial. Both village and private property have been adversely affected by these intense storms. Through our county legislator, Mary Jane Shimsky, the county has been attentive to our needs. In fact, the Westchester County Planning Commission has recently voted to co-fund 2 engineering studies in our village, which will help determine the extent of water damage caused to homeowners throughout the village and guide us in preparing a solution. As you have heard, Dobbs Ferry is a river town with magnificent views of the Hudson River. We have 5 parks in our village, but our waterfront park is considered by many to be the crown jewel. I happen to believe it's the most beautiful park in Westchester County, with views of New York City, the Palisades, and the Governor Cuomo Bridge. Whether you are attending a summer jazz concert or watching a spectacular July 4th display, our waterfront park is a magical place. In addition to our parks, we are known for having a vibrant downtown. Our restaurants have been honored by Michelin and are consistently rated among the best in Westchester County. We have gastropubs, cafes, and retail establishments that cater to almost all our needs and makes our village truly a destination for dining, drinking, and shopping. Thanks to a New York State grant, we are in process of making our downtown even better by upgrading some of our sidewalks and our trees. We have also improved our downtown by creating new apartments. More people can now experience living in a vibrant downtown with the ability to walk to our Metro North train station to get to New York City, see the Yankees, or go to the city for a play or for work. In the next year, even more living and retail space will be available downtown with the redevelopment of one of our older buildings. The board has also not lost focus on trying to make Dobbs Ferry an affordable place to live. We believe that one of the keys to having a vibrant, sustainable village is to have a diverse housing stock so that people can afford to move and retire here. To that end, we are exploring alternatives such as accessory dwelling units and expanded affordable housing requirements. Our schools are consistently rated among the best in Westchester County, and we were one of the first school systems that offered the International Baccalaureate degree. We are also home of Mercy College and the Master's School. And we have a strong resident-supported committees where our Sustainable Westchester Committee has helped gain us the bronze certification in as a climate smart community. And we have a diversity human rights committee that's addressing serious issues by raising awareness as well. All of this takes place in a village that will celebrate its 150th anniversary next year, a place where George Washington and his troops marched, a place where Alexander Hamilton's son worshiped, and where Civil War soldiers are buried. These events and others are remembered and honored by our historical society, who holds recreations and parades to honor all these events, as well as the Memorial Day Parade, which we recently had, which was an amazing event. Even though we are a historic river town, we offer great services to our diverse population, from our newly renovated Gould Park pool to our nearly completed Embassy Community Center. Our seniors, our children, and residents of all ages participate in a wide variety of programs. We are a community that has a great past, but a greater future. If you haven't visited, I urge you to come by and enjoy the view. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. That's Mayor Vincent Rossillo from the Village of Dobbs Ferry. We appreciate you being with us here and telling us about some of the upcoming events. And what the mayor points out, and it does apply elsewhere in the county, generally by the end of the month of June, each of the different municipalities of Westchester County set up a series of summertime concerts. And of course, in Dobbs Ferry, it's on that wonderful waterfront setting. And if you're looking for things to do as the weather gets warm, you want to be outside, it is very valuable for you to take a look, go on the Dobbs Ferry governmental website, look at the dates of those upcoming activities and concerts, and that would be true in many other communities as they come out. Westchester sits next to the greatest city on the planet in New York City, but we have our own attractions as well that are worthwhile. And so from Dobbs Ferry to any part of the county, make a note to spend some time during the summer. You'll enjoy it as you get to see other parts of the county. And again, Mr. Mayor, thank you very much for being with us today. We appreciate it. Thank you. I want to highlight that we have just begun a process of public input in the preparation of a master plan for the Westchester County Airport. A master plan for the airport, similar to any master plan for a municipality or for any site, intends to lay out a game plan of how that facility, in this case the airport, should be guided for future activity. And the last time we had a master plan that was fully adopted, approved by the Board of Legislators, was in 1989. And a lot of things have happened over those 33 years. So we are now in the process of developing that master plan. There was a master plan process that occurred in 2017. What we're doing is actually supplementing that as a legal action. But what we're doing in practical terms is starting from zero and looking at all the different elements that go into the county airport, what the size and scope of the terminal is, what the size and scope of parking is, how are we handling concerns about protecting the integrity of Rye Lake just to the north, how we're handling any stormwater drainage that might go to the south down to the Blind Brook, which ultimately leads into Long Island Sound, how we handle de-icing fluid as an environmental impact, how we handle fixed-based operators, the FBOs that operate for general aviation purposes on the west side of the airport, and a host of other ancillary issues. The master plan process begins with a series of public forums which we're going to be holding all over the county. We had our first one last week in White Plains, and we want to thank Pace Law School for hosting us in their building. The next one comes up this Thursday, June 2nd, at Manhattanville College in Purchase in the town of Harrison. We have one following up in beautiful Dobbs Ferry the week following, Thursday, June 9th, on the campus of Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry. And we intend to have a continuation of other such forums in other parts of the county. We'd like to be able to put them in all corners of the county so people have an easy way to come and access us, to be able to get information and then to comment. We will have a virtual town hall meeting to have the same discussion for those people for whom dealing with it virtually is the better strategy for health purposes and so forth. That will most likely be the event that we have that follows the Dobbs Ferry event, and then we'll announce another series of in-person meetings that will follow, again, hoping to have good scope. The meetings themselves begin at 6 o'clock. There was some misunderstanding from the last one that we held. We want to be very clear about this. At 6 o'clock, the doors open. People can come and sign up, get information. They can make comments that they can put in writing, either the old-fashioned handwriting or computer aided comments, and there'll be tabletop exhibits and individuals to talk to about various different components of what goes into the master plan. This is not merely a speak out session. This is an attempt to try to get information that is pointed toward developing a document that has substance to it. But it does give people an opportunity to express their feelings and however they express those feelings. At some point in time, perhaps a half an hour, last time was 45 minutes, as we continue allowing folks to come and ask questions about specifics, noise, airport flight patterns, things of that nature, things that have a specificity to them. We will then open up to a general session, and in that general session, we will invite testimony, up to 3 minutes of verbal testimony, and we have a time clock, and we want to try to use it aggressively, not to cut people off, but to make sure that everybody who wants to be heard can be heard. And when we did this at the last meeting in White Plains, as in the future meetings, we intend to stay until every single person that wishes to be heard is heard, so that no one feels as if they've been cut off. But as with any public forum, there's a time frame involved, and if you care a lot about the airport, then you're committed to come. Then you're committed to come, and you sort of wait through that time period until you get your opportunity to speak, and you listen to other speakers, and you get a gist of how different people view this. We have to absorb this information as we put the draft together. Ultimately, the draft will be submitted to the Westchester County Board of Legislators. They will have the ability to make changes, and they will have public forums and public hearings on the topic as well. So there's plenty of bite of the apple for public input. But this June 2nd, 6 o'clock at Manhattanville College, same time a week later, on June 9th at 6 o'clock at Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry. Again, 6 o'clock, we start the informal session, and we do take written comments, either electronically or handwritten. And then at 6:30, we go into the public comment session. And the 6:30 is a bit flexible, depends on how many people are there and what kind of feedback that we have. And out of that will be a vision for the airport that will be ultimately agreed upon by those elected officials and become a footprint for how we go forward. Your opinions are welcome, and I would say that the topics that go into the master plan are those that are appropriate for commentary, and those can include any of the different issues about charter flights, and noise is a legitimate issue, concerns about the environment. There are some issues that might have a connection to the airport, but they aren't driven around the master plan. And so we will make sure that what you comment on is on the scope of things that relate to the master plan. This is not just an open public session for any comment that you'd like. Some people want to express their feelings about the Ukraine. This is not the forum for that. And we do that respectfully because we want the public input to drive toward a decision on how we have to do a master plan. So we will enforce those rules. We will enforce the time limits, not to be restrictive, but to make sure that we cover the ground necessary and we give everybody that opportunity to speak. So that's coming up again this Thursday, June 2nd, Manhattanville College. We welcome your attendance. If you came to the last session, you can come back again and express your opinion again if you'd like. You can certainly submit written testimony and not have to go in person. You can wait for the virtual session that's coming up, and we'll take all of that from there. Next topic, I'm going to invite Ken Jenkins, our Deputy County Executive, to join me. He will be talking a little bit about our nonprofit business grants program, and then he will introduce Bridget Gibbons, who's our Director of Economic Development. I just want to say one thing, because somebody asked me about this when we were out in the community. When we have these updates, Ken is with me for the bulk of them, and I just want to highlight why that is. You know that when you elect a president of the United States, you elect alongside that person a vice president. When you elect a governor, you elect alongside them a lieutenant governor. In the county government, the position of deputy county executive is not an elected position, but it provides the same opportunity. A person who is second in command, but who works closely with the person that you elected. And I think it's important, and that's why Ken and I have had the strong relationship we have for these 4+ years, and why he is a part of this every day. I don't think you can realistically expect to have a government that moves forward unless it's inclusive, unless it makes sure that every voice is heard, and that the leadership of that government is not seen as a singular person. I have the responsibility and the authority to do so, but you're seen as the deputy county executive, the director of operations, the director of communications, the county attorney. All of that represents the leadership. And frankly, I've thought it's a mistake over the years, how dare I comment on presidencies, that presidents don't seem to include their vice president as a real working partner in the decisions of government. And sometimes governors do, and sometimes governors don't include their lieutenant governors as working partners. But in Ken Jenkins, as deputy county executive, I have a colleague and a friend, and we work together along with the other members that govern this county government. And so I'm very happy when Ken is with us every week to outline some of these issues. And on this issue, a very important part are nonprofit business grants. Ken Jenkins, deputy county executive.
Thanks, George. Certainly, this is an exciting time for us here in Westchester. Because of County Executive Latimer's leadership, we were able to propose in the 2022 budget and certainly move forward in the adoption with the Board of Legislators of the 2022 budget funding for our nonprofits and for our faith-based organizations that were so helpful to us during the COVID timeframes. And that's why it's important that we're having this announcement and discussion today as we're moving forward. Over the 2.5 years of COVID, we've seen how very important, critically important, those non-for-profit partners were in ensuring that we were able to deliver services to the community and make sure that every resident had an opportunity to be able to be heard through those nonprofit organizations. As County Executive Latimer just pointed out so eloquently, no one does any of this alone. And with our partners in municipal government, like our good friend Vincent Rossillo from the village of Dobbs Ferry, the mayor of the village of Dobbs Ferry, with all of the partners, County Executive Latimer's leadership and style through this particular thing is to ensure that we're treated everyone as a partner, as a municipal brother and sister, as well of our nonprofit partners that do things that government can't do alone. So with that, we had over 160 nonprofits got grants up to $45,000 to be able to work inside of the $17 million that was appropriated for this purpose. Now, that's a significant amount of money to be able to support the nonprofits. It's not just a loan for the work that they do. That's separate funding that's already allocated to those groups. This is specifically for those activities and things that happened to those organizations because of COVID. Maybe they needed some more personal protective equipment. Maybe they needed to have electronic increases when they were doing things over virtual teleconferences, or physical things just like barriers and those kind of things. But this particular grant funding, again, leadership of County Executive Latimer, approved by the Board of Legislators to ensure that we were going to be able to get those valuable organizations that we all saw, whether it was in 2020, 2021, and even up to now, that are critical partners in this particular services. So with that, I want to make sure to bring up the person that worked so hard through this, her and her team, Bridget Gibbons, our Director of Economic Development, worked again with other partnership organizations to make this happen. With that, our good friend, the Economic Development Director, Bridget Gibbons.
Thank you, Ken. Could you put that thing up?
Sure.
Makes a big difference. Thank you, Deputy County Executive, and thank you, County Executive. Westchester County is pleased to announce that we're awarding 160 grants to nonprofit organizations, our partners, as Deputy County Executive said, for just over $6 million as part of the 2022 Westchester County Business First Grant Program. Many of the Westchester County's nonprofit partner organizations have faced an increased demand for their services, significant costs for personal protective equipment, masks, shields, other things of that nature, and loss of funding because they couldn't hold their fundraisers, and other pandemic-related challenges that have impacted their operating costs and income. These grants, as Ken said, of up to $45,000 each, will aid in their financial recovery as they continue working to support our communities. Awardees should have received notices from the county executive already, and they will be hearing from, if they have not done so already, hearing from Community Capital, who's the organization that is going to be administering the grant program for us. There's a packet that needs to be completed and submitted before the funds will be released. And so there's a documentation that they'll be receiving. The county is offering to provide technical support to organizations that may need help submitting that paperwork. It's fairly straightforward, but I'm sure people are going to need help. They're going to have to scan receipts and other things to provide back to Community Capital. So if people need help, we are pleased to partner with Nonprofit Westchester, led by Jan Fisher, Executive Director. She is going to help people that may request it in submitting their paperwork. If organizations need help, they can email businessfirst@npwestchester.org. So that's businessfirst@npwestchester.org. I want to thank Jan Fisher for her dedication and incredible support through this entire process. She's been a great partner in making sure the nonprofit organizations knew about these grant funds and really facilitating getting their applications in and now getting their documentation in. The Westchester County Business First Grant Program is administered by the Westchester County Office of Economic Development through the American Rescue Plan. The county is currently reviewing and processing the grant applications from our religious organizations, and we'll be announcing those awards in a future date. If anyone has questions about the nonprofit grant program, you can email me at bgibbons@westchestergov.com or call me at 914-995-2952. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bridget. And we want to highlight that this is part of an ongoing effort to assist organizations through the COVID situation in 2020 when there was not yet a clear path of grant efforts on behalf of small businesses. We were able to provide direct grants. In 2021, we provided some of those direct grants to some of the local chambers of commerce that were providing that overall marketing assistance to the small businesses. And now, in this world, through the nonprofits, which also are a significant employer in Westchester County. I believe 20% of the workforce is employed at various nonprofits. So we view this not just as a social good thing to do. This is all part of economic development. We want to maintain the viability of all these organizations in Westchester County that provide a service and employ a significant portion of our workforce. So Bridget, thank you for your leadership on this, and Ken, thank you too for your involvement in all of these things to happen. As we continue forward, a couple of things more that we want to cover. Our next task is to sign a bill into law that will expand local municipal police departments in reporting incidents that involve conduct which appears to be motivated or is motivated in part by a perceived membership of someone in a protected class. This basically takes the human rights situation and broadens it to include incidents of hatred as opposed to just provable acts that could be prosecuted. There's been an increase in incidents of bias throughout the county, and it poses an attack on what makes Westchester strong, in my judgment and the judgment of many of us, and that is the fact that we are a diverse county. We have, as I've often said, a mosaic of people, and that mosaic of people gives us economic strength as we tap the skills and the abilities of the totality of our population, workforce and otherwise. Federal and state laws do not address the overwhelming seriousness of such hate incidents. They don't satisfy the element of a crime, but they're motivated by a person's actual or perceived membership in a particular class. And so we want to be able to provide, through the Human Rights Commission, an avenue to be able to address that. We have with us today the Executive Director of the Westchester County Human Rights Commission, and Tejas Sanchala will talk a little bit about this situation. This is an improvement that was really suggested by the Human Rights Commission and their functioning every day, what would help them strengthen their hand. And when this turned into legislation, it was passed by the Board of Legislators unanimously. You don't see a lot of that in various legislatures where you have unanimous voting, but the effort made to try to negotiate on any different disagreements and to come up with a document that both sides of the aisle and all individuals could feel comfortable with is why we're here today. So I'm going to ask Tejas to share his thoughts, and then we'll proceed to sign the bill into law with the assistance of my colleagues in the Board of Legislators. Tejas Sanchala.
I want to thank the county executive for his leadership in being a longtime champion of the Human Rights Commission from its formation in 2000 to last year's expansion of the human rights law, which added protections for discriminatory harassment, to today's bill signing, which requires the reporting of hate incidents. I would also like to thank the Deputy County Executive and members of the Boards of Legislators for their continual support as well. Along with 3 members of the Human Rights Commission Board, including Reverend Doris K. Dalton, who's our chair, Vice Chair Reverend Dr. Stephen Pogue. I had the privilege to serve on the county's task force to reform and reimagining policing. Today's amendment to the county's public safety law implements a recommendation born out of the Training and Equipment Committee, which I served on with Reverend Dr. Pogue and Commissioner Gleason. I'd like to thank Commissioner Gleason for his partnership. And this amendment will increase public safety's and the Commission's awareness of hate incidents in our county. Reporting hate incidents is critical. History teaches us that when hate incidents go unchecked, hate crimes may follow. Unchecked hate can breed violence. It is critical to report an incident before it escalates to a crime, particularly a violent crime. This amendment will assist the Commission to see any patterns in the county, and it will help inform our education outreach efforts that we do in the community. We've seen a rise in hate across our country. According to the FBI's most recent hate crime report, over 10,000 people reported they were a victim of a hate crime in 2020. That is the highest level reported since 2008 in 12 years. Nationally, we've seen a report of increase in hate against anti-Asian hate, anti-Semitism, and other communities have been scapegoated and victims of hate as well. Hate crimes and hate incidents are designed to instill fear in our communities and seek to negate our identities. Hate incidents are not an attack on one person, they are an attack on our entire community. It's important to remember that there are 2 victims when there's a hate crime or a hate incident. First, the individual victim is impacted on a deeply personal level. Studies have shown it goes to the heart of who they are, and they suffer a greater trauma than a victim of an ordinary crime or a crime that's not a hate crime. And as somebody who's been the victim of a hate crime, I can personally attest to that portion. And second, the community that identifies with the victim is affected. So you see the ripple effect of the hate crime in our community. One of the things we've talked about in the task force, and we've talked about at the commission, is the fact that it's well documented that hate incidents are significantly underreported nationwide. And so I think this is important that the local police departments will be reporting it to public safety, who will in turn report it to the Human Rights Commission. But to further combat this underreporting problem, the commission has created an additional tool on its webpage for the public to report hate incidents directly. They can do so anonymously, they can provide their name, and we will follow up with them. In today's day, fighting hate requires a multi-pronged approach. It's different than when I grew up and people would meet in a hall and they'd congregate. There's a lot of activity that takes place online now, and it spreads more rapidly. So in addition to encouraging the reporting of hate incidents, the Commission also seeks to create a community where hate is not accepted and it's prevented from escalating or occurring. The Commission launched an education empowerment series to do just that. We organized a series of live interactive workshops to help people build their toolbox to go being from a bystander to an upstander in fighting hate. This Saturday, we'll be hosting a workshop on bystander intervention training and self-defense, a basic self-defense workshop at the Asian American Heritage Fair at Kensico Dam. It is an outdoor event and it is free. I encourage you to join us. If you've witnessed or experienced discrimination or hate in Westchester County, I encourage you to report it. The Human Rights Commission does not share information regarding someone's immigration status with other agencies. The Human Rights Commission strives for a just and equitable society where no one experiences fear, discrimination, or hate because of how they look, who they believe, who they were born, and who they love. Thank you.
So I'd like to invite up to join me around the table Nancy Barr, the Vice Chair of the Board of Legislators, County Legislator from Rye Brook, Erica Pierce, County Legislator from Bedford, who's with us here today. We have County Legislator Vedat Gashi from Yorktown. I'd like to have him join us. We have Legislator Jim Nolan from Yonkers, and we are waiting Legislator Jewel Williams-Johnson, and if she joins us, then we'll be happy to have her here. In fact, any other member of the Board of Legislators. All 17 members were part of the process to discuss this. I'm going to sign, you won't hear me mic'd up over there, I'm going to sign this with 2 separate pens, and one pen will go to Tejas for his work on this, and another to Nancy on behalf of the Board of Legislators to thank them for their important role in making this happen. So with the authority that you've given me as County Executive, I intend to sign this into law right now. Tejas, join me over there. I know this can be heard on tape, but on the 23rd day of May, Westchester County Board of Legislators voted for this legislation 17 aye and no negative. So on today, this is the 31st day of the month of May of 2022. As County Executive, I have the great honor to sign this piece of legislation into law. And Nancy, on behalf of your legislature, thank you for your work on this, and Tejas, on behalf of your group, make sure I close the pen. It's always a good idea. Thank you for your work. Vedat, America, thank you, Nancy. Jim, and Tejas, thank you very much. We now have a law. Thank you all very much for your work. Tom, please stick around. Our Commissioner Sheriff Tom Gleason is with us here today, and this is an important statement that I want to make sure I make with him here, because if I invited him to come up and he had a voluntary effort to do this, he wouldn't want to do this. He is a man of great talent, but also great modesty. Tom Gleason has served Westchester County Department of Public Safety for 39 years. Think about what you were doing 39 years ago and the path of your life over 39 years. There may be some people in the room that aren't even 39 years of age yet. But Tom has had every position. Tom has had every position in the Department of Public Safety that you could possibly have. He's done every kind of duty and had incidents galore. He was telling me a story when he was a young police officer, how he had to confront a pack of rabid wolves in Tibbetts Brook Park. Now, it's a long time ago. They're not there now. But and that was not as easy as it sounds, because he was by himself, no other backup, and these wolves attacked. And how he handled himself was one more example of his professionalism over the years. 4 years ago, when I had the opportunity to make the appointment for Commissioner Sheriff for this department, I specifically wanted to promote from within. I thought it was an important statement to make. We've had excellent commissioners who have come from other entities and brought in from the outside. We may do that in the future. But I wanted to make a statement as a new county executive to the men and the women of the police department that we felt that the talent was there all along to lead this department. And so we asked Tom Gleason to take on the commissioner's responsibility. He agreed to do it. And now on the end of this week, on Friday, we will have a departure ceremony that has a lot of great symbolism to them. I trust some of our friends in the press will be there to see it. But I just wanted to publicly thank Tom Gleason for his years of service. He served under other county executives. I get to be the one to thank him on behalf of all those other leaders of this department for really a job excellently well done, and we wish you the very best in retirement, and we know you'll come back and visit. Mr. Gleason, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Tom Gleason. Thank you, Tom. Thank you very much. Tomorrow, we will have a public event with the 1st of June to highlight the fact that Beeline buses will not cost you any money to ride during the month of June, the month of July, August, and the first week of September, up to Labor Day. We have suspended fares on the Beeline bus system, so you may ride it to your heart's content. If you have nothing to do, get on the bus, ride to the other end of the county, ride back. You'll see a beautiful scenery if you're going from Yonkers to Yorktown or from Pelham to Peekskill. It is a wonderful bus system. It is the second highest ridership for a bus system in New York State, New York City being, of course, the largest ridership. But the bus system that covers across the county, heavily in the southern part and the central part of the county, is going to be now with no fares involved for the next 3+ months. We did this because we know that we're in inflationary times, and we know that the cost of everything is expensive. And we thought that there are a few things that the county government has direct authority over. We do not have authority over baby formula. We do not have authority over how much your utility bills are. That's outside of our control. But the bus system is within our control. We had discussion with the Board of Legislators. They were supportive of the move, and so we have suspended that. If you're a regular rider of the Beeline bus system, this may save as much as $200 a month. If you're an occasional rider, it saves you whatever it is. If you're taking the kids to go to Playland, well, it's going to save you the cost of doing that. And to my knowledge, we're the only public bus system in New York State that has suspended fares as a statement for inflationary times. I might add that our senior leadership team is looking at other types of reductions in costs that we can justify. We've been able to do this because of the fiscal strength of the county, and we will come back perhaps to the Board of Legislators as well with other suggestions of what we can do. We'll talk about that more in the days to come. But we recognize the economic problems that people face. And while certain things are left to the federal government to deal with or the state government to deal with, we will work within our lane and try to provide some financial benefit. We run a park system with a variety of fees. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to look at everything else that we do to be helpful. But starting tomorrow, we'll have a press conference on this. The Beeline bus system will have no fare. We have also agreed, Board of Legislators and the administration, to opt into a state-sponsored program that freezes the amount of sales tax that we can collect at the pump when you're gassing up. And we hope that that benefit will accrue to the individual user. We don't know if it will, because really it's up to the oil companies. We, the county, do not have leverage over the oil companies to pass along the benefit at the pump. We hope that'll be the case. And since the state has structured the program, which we're plugging into and other counties are plugging into, we hope that there's some mechanism for the state attorney general, the governor, and so forth to be able to enforce it. So if you're looking at your pump price, you'll see some reduction in it. There are other factors that go into that, the crude oil barrel price and refining costs and so forth outside of my lane. But nonetheless, that will also kick in tomorrow, June 1st, and we will look at other anti-inflationary measures, and we will present that information to you at the appropriate time. We remind you that now on the weekends, our beaches are open, assuming that we have good environmental structure and it doesn't rain cats and dogs. Croton Point Park Beach is open on the weekends. On the Hudson River side, Glen Island Beach is open on the Long Island Sound shore side. And in a couple of weeks' time, the pools will open, the 4 pools that we have in Westchester County. We've made the decision to extend Bicycle Sunday for an additional 3 weeks in the month of July. We will not have it on the 4th of July weekend. We always skip over major holiday weekends. But then the next 3 weeks of July, we will open it up. So similar to the last 2 years, there'll be an extended period of time for Bicycle Sunday. Our 6 public golf courses are in full swing, and literally and figuratively. We have lots of folks out there golfing, and as the weather gets nicer, they will be out there at the crack of dawn, which is getting closer to 5:30 every morning. For those who love to be able to play golf and can do it at a reasonable price in a public course. There's other things of that nature. We'll talk about them as we go forward. I want to check to see if we have any questions from the press on any of these issues. We do not. If any members of the press are watching this live stream, you're welcome to call Catherine Chaffee, our Director of Communication, at 995-2932. She'll be happy to help. I want to publicly thank Jason Chervokas and Joy Haber from the Board of Legislators Communications staff for their presence today and their involvement in the work on behalf of the board. And then, of course, I want to thank our team, which for today's purposes includes Lisa Reyes, John Borst, Joe Scamato, Carolyn Fortino, Chelsea Pagano, and, of course, Catherine Chaffee. It is in the communications effort that the things that we do get known by the public. And hopefully that knowledge is not about promotion, but it's about giving you the information you need in order to interact with this government that is your government. With that, we'll close for today. Thank you for watching. I'm George Latimer, County Executive. Have a good, safe day, and we'll speak to you again a little later this week.